Hi, Paula. Morning. Thanks for joining again. It's great to see you. Always good because I know that you'll have lots of input into the session, so that's really good too. Hi. Good morning. Again, it's 10:30, but we'll give it a couple of minutes just to kind of let everyone join. The gut webinars are always quite popular, and probably as you're aware, because you're joining in this morning, it's a huge topic, and it's one that I rarely see anybody in clinic these days that doesn't have a gut issue. Unfortunately, it's becoming across all ages as well. You know, we're seeing even a lot more babies and young children with various complaints. So it is a really big topic, and you know, again, it's kind of the center of our health. So really important to get good gut health. And there's so much research around now, you know, that it's fascinating, the things that are coming out. You know, I think in the past it was just seen as as an organ of digestion, and that was it. There was nothing more there. As always, you know, thanks to those of you that have joined. It's always really great to see it's the same people kind of joining into our webinar. So, you know, thanks so much, because we really enjoy doing them. I personally really enjoy doing them. We started this during our lockdown period, and it just became a really good way for us to connect with the community, and also for you to kind of sort of find out things. So as always, after each section, do put your questions on the chat line, and we'll get to those. Just anything at all that we're going through. So today, just before we start, so we will be having a look at, this is a two-part webinar, so we'll be having a look at the dietary side of gut health, enzymes, and also that sort of gut-brain connection as well, and then concluding next week with the second part. But we'll go through it. We'll have a look at the testing side, you know, the best way to do that, and how we go through it. So we might, let's have a look. We might kick off, and then people can join us as we come. So for anyone that doesn't know me, my name's Toni. I'm a naturopath at Balanced Living. Studied and trained in Sydney in Australia. The level there of naturopathy, it's really amazing, and there's some great naturopaths that have come out there. So I studied nutrition, herbal medicine, homeopathy, did reflexology years ago. So I treat with all of those modalities, and really interestingly as well, which relates to this webinar quite a bit, and where I'm going to open with this is I'm now studying a course called the Body Code, and it's about, you know, where our subconscious lies and trapped emotions within the body that might be manifesting in disease. So I really wanted to add that to my practice, because I feel like, you know, it's great to have that clinical side, but it's also, I think we need to dig a bit deeper. So kind of kicking off there, you know, meet your second brain. It's the gut. You know, I think that there's so much information around now that shows this connection. And as, you know, succinctly put here, it's an orchestrated symphony of hormones, neurotransmitters, and electrical impulses. So that, you know, they're following these pathways. So most of us can probably relate to the experience of having butterflies in our stomach, you know, or having that sort of gut-wrenching feeling if you feel like something's wrong. You know, and how often are we told not to ignore our gut instincts or our gut feelings when making a decision? Obviously, there has to be, more to that. So even though we kind of throw it around as simple slang, it's clear, symbolically just how connected the gut is to our emotions. And now I think there's a lot of sort of tangible proof around those metaphors. We all have a microbiome, and each of us, microbiome is as unique as our neural pathways. In fact, what they're finding actually now is that a lot of anti-anxiety medications actually use the same signaling to synthetically control anxiety. So, that's really interesting. So let's just have a look. Yeah, look, this is your gut mucosa at the top here. And then these pathways going, these nerves going down to the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so let's have a look. Your digestive system, we know, is kind of talking to you. And this system in particular, I think it's pretty easy to tell when something is wrong. You can feel it. You can feel it in your whole body, in your gut, in your brain. It changes your moods. And, we're going to have a look at some really good, herbs and supplements and testing and support for the body. But before we go into that, it may be good just to have a look, or, to say to yourself, why is your digestive system imbalanced? And what might your body be trying to tell you? And what might you do differently? I think, as I was saying before, the repressed emotional energy, it's going to land somewhere in your body, in your physical body. And it's something called somatization. And over time, this can sort of create problems that lead to, maybe serious illness and disease. And I know we always talk about this with regards to adrenal health, how that stress can manifest in the body and lead to, different things. But I think we need to really seriously have a look about it in the gut as well. I would say that many of us, and you probably agree with me, we often repress difficult or uncomfortable emotions unconsciously. So that energy, it gets trapped somewhere. Okay, everybody's joining okay. Sorry, I just had a message from somebody. Let me know if you've joined up okay and there's no problem with that. Somebody just sent me a message to say that they were having difficulty joining. So just let me know if that's okay. I don't know what I can do about letting them join. But let me know if there was any problem or if there was any kind of weird thing that came up. Okay, so I might, could you just bear with me for 1 second, and I'm just going to check the connection here. I mean, we have people sort of joining here, so I'm not sure what's going on here. We might just carry on. Okay. All right. So we were talking about the kind of repressed emotions. Okay, so, given the nature of emotional issues, let me just check your chat lines to make sure. All good here. Thanks, Ken. Yeah, I'm not sure. Somebody just sent me a message, a WhatsApp message saying they weren't able to join, but I can see people joining, so I'm hoping everything's okay. I have to say, technology is not my strong point. Better at natural medicine. It's always a little bit of a balance to make sure that it's all working well. Yeah, so to finish off that kind of emotional connection, they often end up in sort of different chakras of the body, and the emotional issues, they end up right where our digestive system is trying to do its work. So that's just another consideration into your digestive health, with your thoughts, feelings, things that you've been through. When you're stressed, you can feel it in your stomach. And also, I really encourage you to listen to those emotions that you're feeling. All right, so what they're saying is love your digestive system. So validate those emotions, allow them to come up, and just look at what emotions you've possibly suppressed. And all of that can really help with the healing of the digestive system. So having said that, moving on, functional medicine puts a major focus onto the gut. It's become, even, I studied naturopathy nearly 20 years ago now, and it wasn't like this back then. We were still, we were looking at a holistic body, but we were still looking at, different parts of the body and how we were going to treat them as a whole. And over the last 20 years, I think the gut health has, just exploded, and also, has been worthy of lots of research around it. So yeah, we do put a major focus onto the gut. And what I've found in practice many times is that if I have tried to go in and treat, let's say when I was in the thyroid clinic, if I was trying to just treat the thyroid, if I was trying to treat something, but I hadn't addressed the gut issue, it would always come back to me, and I would have to pull back, go in and sort the gut out in order to really get somebody to their true potential. So, something that I sort of learned quite early on, and continue to learn with that. So, there's the health of the digestive system greatly impacts the health of our whole body. I think we know that now. Trillions of bacteria residing there, breaking down our food, fighting pathogens, controlling our metabolism, amongst many more things. So we're actually home to more than 500 different species. We're like a rainforest of microbes. Some of them help, and they're beneficial, but others are harmful, and it's these harmful bacteria that we really, we want to address, and rebalance that rainforest as such. If there's an overgrowth of a bad kind, it can really start to cause some problems, intestinal disorders like irritable bowel syndrome, leaky gut, SIBO, also chronic inflammation, depression, and heart disease and cancer. There is becoming a lot more around those areas and the gut. So again, it's our job to encourage good microbes by feeding them the things they need, and avoiding any damage to the gut, and starving off the bad bacteria by avoiding the foods and other forces that allow them to thrive. So digestive system is one of 11 major body systems. It's a group of organs that work together, and again, it's the foundation of good health. You'll have a look here. So here's some of the organs of the system. It's a combination of nerves, hormones, bacteria, blood, that work together with that really important task of digesting the foods and liquids that we consume every day. So the digestion actually begins in the hypothalamus, which is in the brain. So if we see or we smell food, it starts to set off that metabolic process. Again, if we smell something that is not so good, sometimes it's saying, your body doesn't want that or doesn't like it. However, this is not the case with sugar because it tricks the brain. So it's really important. So that process in the brain will depend on, your decisions there. And a lot of things can obviously affect that. So another thing, how long does it take for your body to digest? Let me know if you've done transit time. So, you know, sometimes if you get people to eat sweet corn or like little nuts or seeds and things like that, you can have a look at how long it takes from ingesting to going down and coming out through the stool. So sometimes it's quite important that our transit time is just the right time to go through the organs and not passing through too quickly, taking nutrients with it. So the sort of typical time is around 6 to 8 hours for food. So 6 to 8 hours for food. It actually, men have a shorter, okay, someone's called regarding a webinar, sorry. Okay, I'm just going to carry on because it's that everyone else has got here. So studies have shown that the transit time tends to be shorter for men and longer for women. So there's a number of factors at play with that. So we've all got digestive juices, enzymes, and we're going to have a look at that in a moment. And we're also, you know, we'll have a look at the cells in the lining of the stomach and, you know, how they sort of release different chemicals. And this goes right down, obviously, you know, to the intestines. So just an interesting point, mouth and salivary glands, we make 2 pints of saliva a day. And that saliva starts the action of breaking down food. It's in a message. Yeah, so it breaks down the action of the food. If you find that you are dry mouth, there can be some hormonal issues there. You know, so basically, if you have a look at the esophagus, that creates that peristalsis into the stomach. You get into the stomach and it's churning. There's digestive enzymes, 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐿 and mixes. You know, the pancreas, that releases digestive enzymes to break down proteins, carbs and fats. The liver produces bile for fats, and the gallbladder, you know, stores bile and squeezes it into the bile ducts. The small intestine, you'll see, that's where the nutrients are absorbed through the lining of the wall. The rest is water and electrolytes and waste product. And of course, the large intestine, you know, the residue passes through the colon, all water is absorbed and that forms the stool. So in order for us to be going, you know, doing bowel movements, we need that water absorption into the stool to you know, to pass the stool smoothly and nicely. You will see, you know, there are sometimes parts of waste in the stool. One of the really amazing things I think about our body and with the stool is, again, the connection to the brain. When you need to do a bowel movement, the connection to the bowels from the brain says, hey, I think I need to go. And at that point, your brain can decide, you know, if you're out shopping, you're kind of like, right, something says, no, right, this is not the right time, you know, this is not convenient. So, you know, the bowels will kind of push back up until you have that connection and you're ready to go. So, I mean, it's amazing, like how our body really works all round, and that connection back to the brain again. So some of the signs and symptoms that you may be feeling, you know, I think bloating has to be the #1 symptom that we see in clinic. The bloating differs for various reasons, you know, whether there's food sensitivities, whether there's SIBO, you know, dysbiosis, there's many things, but bloating can be very common, and especially if there's leaky gut as well, and a disturbance of the gut mucosa. Constipation is very common. We'll have a look at some remedies for that. That IBS, you know, the going between constipation and diarrhea is very common. There's if you see bleeding in the stool, obviously that's, you know, get straight to your doctor and check that out. Sometimes it can be hemorrhoids, I find a lot as well, but always check that out. You know, if there's any nausea, vomiting, pain, swallowing problems, and obviously any kind of major weight loss or gain that you haven't been trying to do. So there's a lot of symptoms here, you know, and here's kind of a collection of some of the digestive diseases that we're looking for. I won't go through all of these today. If you have anything specific that you want to go through, do put it onto the chat line, and then, you know, we can have a look. You know, we do very much with our testing, and we're going to have a look at testing in a second. I brought it in quite soon because I want to talk about it in relation to what we're looking for as a stool test there. So as you can see, there's many different digestive diseases that we could be looking at or could be leading towards. So we want to avoid that. We also have cases of upper and lower abdominal stomach symptoms. You know, so here's, you know, on the left-hand side, you know, the GERBs, the peptic ulcers, gastritis, that kind of thing. And the lower is the celiac, inflammatory bowel, diverticular disease is really common, and IBS, which is very, very common. Thank you, Ben. So there's obviously different treatments for what's going on, and we need to determine what actually is happening within the gut. And you know, treat that accordingly. So you might sort of recognise also, you know, don't forget celiac disease, you know, they're autoimmune conditions. So there's obviously inflammation in the body, which we need to try and address. So if we break it down, we're looking at 6 main areas of influence with the gut. Obviously the diet, you know, is hugely important on our health, digestive health. The second is enzymes, and we're going to look at enzymes in a moment. The third is bacteria, so the importance of the microbiome. We're also going to have a look at that today. Then you've got barrier, so we talked about the gut mucosa and you know, conditions leading to a condition that you've probably heard of by now, as in leaky gut. Then there's the immune system. So 70% of our immune system's in the gut. You know, with so much focus being on our immune system recently, you know, one of the best things we can do is actually get our gut into shape. Then, you know, supporting the rest of our organs there and the immune system there. And then, of course, the enteric nervous system, which is the gut-brain connection, you know, which again is hugely important. Before we go into the enzymes, I wanted just to run through with you one of the kind of best stool testing that we do in the clinic, and it is also available. It kind of, over the years, there's been different kind of stool testing, but the GI map really combines everything we're looking for. So if you're having stomach or gut issues, bowel issues, anything like that, any of those symptoms, it's a really good idea to do a GI map. Let me know if anyone's done it, how they found it. Share your thoughts on the chat line, because it's really interesting. It's a one stool collection, which makes it quite attractive, more attractive than, you know, the tests that used to be collecting stools over 3 days, different times, that kind of thing. So yeah, much easier to do. It's got really in-depth PCR testing, so that's a form of testing which can really get in to see these parasites you know, the fungi and any bacteria that's going on there. So that's kind of the most accurate testing at the moment. It shows, you know, immune and digestive markers, microbial balance. So we're really looking for that balance within the gut. You know, we're looking for leaky gut. If we're looking for leaky gut, we add zonulin. We're looking for autoimmunity. We're looking for dysbiosis, parasites, you know, celiac, gastritis. There's a big bacterial gut infection called Helicobacter pylori, which you may have heard of. And again, this test for that, which is a big marker, because if that goes kind of unnoticed, it can lead to some serious problems, as all of these can actually. So, good question. Is it done in a lab or in Singapore or overseas? So basically the GI map is you'll be giving a test kit, which we just house the test kits in clinic. You would take this test kit home. You would do the one collection of the stool test in the morning, bring it back into clinic. We actually send it away to be tested. It is tested in the US, but obviously, you know, it's preserved and it's all very well orchestrated, believe me. So very simple process. These labs still in the US are producing the best testing and the best results here. So there is no kind of opportunity in Singapore to kind of get this done. So at the moment we are still sending them off to the US, but it's a very easy process these days and it works really well. Any questions about the GI map whilst we're on it? You know, anything at all, and if anyone's done one, and you know what that might have brought up. I mean, it's a huge amount of information, and I think, again, the same as I kind of say about hormone testing, I feel like everyone should do one of these tests once to see where their gut health is at. So how long do the results take to return? So they take about 3 weeks. So sometimes less, but we do sort of say to give roughly around 3 weeks for the whole process to happen, and then we can monitor it in the labs and report those back. Yeah, Puna, yeah, it's so Puna said, so nice, it's just a one-time collection, unlike most of the other stool tests. Totally agree. Obviously, you know, it's not the best, you know, the most fun thing to do. So by that one collection, it does make it super easy, and the results are great. We do offer a service in clinic. If somebody does want to do testing and just wants the report read back to them, without having the whole consult, you know, you may have your doctor on board, you may have another naturopath, you know, things there. And, you know, if you didn't kind of want to go through all that, we do offer that service as well. So, you know, by all means, send us a message in clinic, and I'll give you the details at the end if you do want to do any of that testing. So another really important test, this actually just shows you a little bit of some of the pathogens that we're looking at here, and although that sort of may not look very much to people there, the amount of kind of factors, candida has a look at, you know, viruses, pathogenic, you know, parasites, virals, all of those kind of things. You know, it's just a very comprehensive look at that. So another one that's quite common that we do in clinic as well is a SIBO breath test. Now, SIBO is a small intestine bacterial overgrowth. So very much indicated with people that are exhibiting IBS symptoms, all that kind of malabsorption, maldigestion, those anemias, all those kind of things. Now, the abdominal bloating is very much a symptom of this. And for any of you out there that might kind of feel that, you know, you wake up in the morning and your stomach feels perfectly fine, and then as soon as you start to eat or drink, for some people, as soon as they even start to have some water, the stomach just bloats out. It's really uncomfortable. By the end of the day, you feel distended, like a distended stomach. Sometimes we would then obviously look towards 𝐶𝐲 and doing a breath test instead. So, you know, if there's these kind of unexplained abdominal symptoms, sometimes it's good to do the two, so you can see what's going in the small intestine and obviously the large intestine as well. Again, pop any questions on. So this is a breath test that you would collect. So let's have a look at what not to feed. Again, do pop any questions about the testing on. And then we can get to those as well. Yeah, so what not to feed your microbiome. I think a lot of this, you know, we hear all the time now, but, you know, the kind of highly processed and packed foods, the sugars, especially, you know, high fructose, the refined oils, you know, they're like, you know, a lot of people really just wouldn't even go near some of these now. But this definitely all has an effect on the microbiome. It changes the balance. Antibiotics, so, you know, a lot of the chickens and stuff like that that are, you know, and meat, if you are a meat eater, you know, pumped into these chickens. You know, I've heard kind of changes in girls being much younger because of some of these antibiotics that are pumped into foods. And for any of you that do eat chicken and you look for one without the antibiotics, you'll see that they're very small in comparison to these big chickens that are kind of pumped full. But believe me, take the small ones rather than these extra hormones. You know, even birth control hormones do, you know, affect the microbiome, so they're all kind of feeding. Steroids obviously have a big effect there, and the kind of the reflux and the anti-inflammatories also, you know, have a big impact. Chris is saying, what can you substitute for an antacid that's relatively fast acting to help with ulcer pain? Yeah, so what we'll have a look. So let me start by saying, you know, I would never say, you know, say don't take any medication, and I'm very much for integrative medicine. I think it's really nice if we can work together, you know, I think that many of you agree that some medications are unavoidable to take and you absolutely need them, and some can be weaned off over time, but obviously under your doctor's guidance. So, you know, what we're sort of saying here is that if you absolutely need some kind of medication for a condition that you're taking, you know, don't try and substitute it, but try and support with it and work on both ways. With your question, Christine, what can you substitute for an antacid that's relatively fast acting? So the key here is to actually, and in fact, I'm going to go into this any second now. It's all about enzymes and how we break our food down, and possibly how many people with stomach acids, it's actually low acid rather than high acid that they think. So we'll have a look at that in a minute, but that's a really good question. And Christine, which is the best birth control pill with less impact on the microbiome? Well, here lies a really interesting question, doesn't it? So I have this conversation all the time with patients about the best birth control. It's still, you know, it's still a very difficult area for women, because obviously on one side, if you've had your family or you're trying not to get pregnant, we absolutely need it. But obviously the pills do have an impact on our hormones, on our microbiome, and can very much change it. So I'd say if you are on birth control, have a look at your microbiome, rebalance and support it. You could have a look at some of the birth control that still allows you to ovulate. Again, they all come with certain side effects. It's, as I said, there's not the perfect birth control just yet. An IUD but they will all have some kind of hormonal. It's the guide job to prevent pregnancy, that ladies. Oh, they're very nice. You win 10 stars this morning. Unfortunately, we've not got to that point yet, have we? Where we can pass it onto our men friends. So I think at the moment with birth control, it's much more about supporting the body, whilst taking it, and especially the gut. And there's lots you can do to support the gut. Because everything will have an effect. And again, if you need to take steroids or acid blockers, but what you will find is that you're more susceptible to leaky gut. Leaky gut, I was kind of not saving, but I was going to go into in much more detail next week. But pop onto the chat line if you're not quite sure what leaky gut is. Like, I know it's a word that is thrown around a lot these days. But if you're not quite sure, then let me just go over it today so that you're aware when I say that. And you can do it privately as well. Okay, so what are our top foods for digestion? Now, I've named sort of top ones here, but if you have any ideas, any sort of, tips to share as well, please pop these on as well, because it's always great to hear what other people are having. So obviously our bone broth is fantastic for that gut mucosa. It's really healing for the gut. Whether you make your own or you can buy some really good quality ones these days. Very easy to make, I have to say. I try and include some bone broth into my diet every day. There possibly can be a case for overdoing it as well, but it's quite nice as a snack, or you add it as a base for soups, all of that kind of thing. So it's great. And then looking at your sort of raw cultured dairy, it's good, but try and come off of the cow's milk. Is very inflammatory for the body as a whole and for the gut. So fermented vegetables are something that is really sort of, hit by storm. So what I'd say about the ferments is that if you are experiencing dysbiosis in the gut, you might find that certain probiotics and certain fermented vegetables will bloat you. So the best thing there is to go in and heal the gut first. And once you have some healing going on with that mucosa, you can then introduce the fermented vegetables, which are prebiotics for the gut. Definitely have a look at all your sprouted seeds, hemp, chia and flax seeds, all fantastic for gut health, and also for any constipation. You can add chia to your morning water. Omega-3, again, lots of foods, all your avocados, your oily fish, your seeds, nuts. And then you've got your herbs and spices, your coconut products, and of course, the apple cider vinegar, which also works as a great digestive enzyme. If you were to take it before every meal, 20 minutes before every meal, a couple of spoonfuls, you'd start to get that action happening. Let's just have a look at your questions here. So great ideas. So tempeh is great, miso, kimchi, and sauerkraut, which has been your favorite. I like I like the kimchi if it's like slightly chilly, and the sauerkraut's fantastic. You know what? Again, you can learn to make your own here. If you're really kind of into it, because you've probably noticed any good quality ferments are really expensive. Actually, if anyone's eaten in the Balance in the Living Cafe downstairs, you'll notice that they do the best kimchi. It's really good. And then so under herbs and spices, pungent herbs, yeah, fantastic. Ginger is great, isn't it, to get those digestive fires, and bitters going. And that's what we're trying to do, is like really think of the gut, you know, we're stoking the fire to kind of really break down those foods. Okay, so let's have a look. You know, here's some of our fibre-rich foods. We do want to try and get fibre-rich foods into the diet. We want to bulk the stool, so it's not always, you know, it's not always the foods that you think. We've obviously got a lot more. Yeah, so balanced living. Yeah, they very much, you know, no antibiotics in their food. You know, no pesticides on their fruit and veg. You know, they source everything. But yeah, try the kimchi, because it's probably one of the best I've had, which is a bit cool. And they make it themselves. So again, so something that, you know, on the dieting kind of front, and some of you may be doing this, that intermittent fasting. So you know what, it's pretty good for the gut, because it gives our digestive system a break. Let me know if you're doing it and how it works for you, and what times you're doing it. So, you know, you can do like if you do want breakfast and you like breakfast, an 8 till 6, you know, is great. And then, you know, 6 o'clock, kitchen is closed, end it there, and you'll go to 14-hour fast every day. If you are not so hungry in the morning, then maybe like a 12 till 6 or 12 till 8 is quite good. You know, and then just in that morning period, drink lots of water, herbal tea. You can drink like coffee. You can actually, like, you can put a dash in it. You can get up to 50 grams of, you know, like say coconut milk or something like that, and your body will still stay in that fasting period. Or the other one people like to do is the 5-2. So, you know, healthy food 5 days a week, and 2 days restricting the calorie to fewer than 700. It used to be fewer than 500, so they've recently raised it, that you'll still get that kind of full benefit of fasting. So what it means is, like, in that window, not to go kind of crazy with all your other foods, still eat, you know, quite nice and healthily, but it will definitely give your digestive system the break it needs. You're more likely to utilize the food within that window. So that does work very well for a lot of people. If you do have adrenal issues, it doesn't work so well. It may rock your blood sugars. And a lot of people, maybe in sort of peri or menopause, it can kickstart a little bit of weight loss there, if you are finding. But just be careful if your blood sugars are not so good. If you've got any questions on any of the food or anything there, just pop it onto the line. Let's have a look. Okay, so that's a good question. Yeah, so if we're acidic or have acid reflux, is intermittent fasting still good? Yeah, so what I'd say to you there is, it's more about when you have acid reflux, and that's exactly where we're about to go into now with this breakdown of foods. It's more about starting to support the breakdown of foods, to repair the gut health, to give you the right enzymes, to get the gut working properly. And then, you know, I think intermittent fasting can be a good idea if you're being supported. It's just if you're in that kind of acid reflux stage, you know, obviously it can cause problems with that. So it's about healing the gut, really. So can you have bone broth during fasting? Apparently yes, is the answer to that. I think as long as like the fat content is not too high in the broth. I see mixed, but I'm on the consensus that bone broth is okay during fasting. And then, yeah, thanks, mate. So intermittent fasting may extend your lifespan, helping you live longer. Definitely lots of studies going into fasting in many ways. You know, helping the cellular regeneration and living longer. So there's another benefit. So Paula says, I think for me, I've been doing intermittent fasting since I was a teenager, and it could be the only reason I don't have SIBO today, because I have a lot of other digestive issues. Otherwise, that started when I was an infant. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point. And remember I said earlier, and Paula, you probably see this, that digestive issues are starting younger and younger. Unfortunately, it used to be that very much more so that, you know, as we kind of reach middle age and we'd, you know, had the alcohol, you know, antibiotics, all these kind of things that contribute towards that, the mucosa. But now actually we're seeing so many different effects on the gut, and I think again it's probably a lot of it is down to environmental, it's down to our the pesticides that are on our foods, you know, just the onslaught of chemicals that we face in our day-to-day life. Something really interesting actually that I found, you know, I, like the rest of people, I love to slather myself in creams and, you know, all these kind of things until I you know, read and researched this article about how the chemicals in our skincare and makeup actually break down the gut mucosa. So it's a really interesting point to even think about what we're putting into our skin. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of benefit to that. So Christine, maybe also because the younger generation was in the higher births by C-section. Yeah, very, very much, potentially. There could be lots of reasons, actually, if we look into it, as to why, you know, gut health. Maybe, you know, maybe not so many women breastfeed these days. Some women can't breastfeed, you know, so many different things. And yeah, we're living in a toxic world. So it's about how to really bring down each of our toxic load to support our bodies, you know. And I think this toxicity is just really having an effect on gut health and causing many problems for everybody. Yeah, so thanks for all your questions there. So stomach acid and enzymes, it's really important for our food to be broken down. So let me just tell you an analogy that I sometimes share in clinic to explain why this is so important. So imagine you've got a blender and you pour into the blender last night's food, and then you blend it to the consistency of, say, minestrone soup, not pumpkin soup. So minestrone still has, you know, lots of the food still present there. So then you get that minestrone soup, you pour it into a plastic bag, and the plastic bag is representing our stomach. And then let's say you then put that plastic bag, you know, out under a tree, and it sits in temperatures of around 37 degrees, which is our inner core. And it sits there for 3 days. What do you think you would find when you return to that plastic bag? So I think you can probably start imagining now, obviously, if there's lumps and chunks of food inside a plastic bag, the plastic bag would be overheated. It would swell up. Thanks, Paula. It would swell up, so there's the bloating. It would start to fester, basically, inviting in bacteria, parasites, and lots of things into the gut, and changing that whole microbiome of the gut. Sorry to answer your question. Yeah, we'll share the recording with you. So you can see from that, if we are not breaking down our food properly, our stomach is like that plastic bag. We've got chunks of food that are festering in those high temperatures that are just leaving our cells open for dysbiosis and parasites and all sorts of things. So we really need to break down these foods, these enzymes. They're produced naturally in the body, but the problem is when we're not making enough. And they're really required for proper digestion. So whilst many people think they have too much stomach acid, here's the reality. Most people don't have enough. Most people that are suffering with this acid, with stomach acid, they're actually not breaking down their food, and they're not having enough. Probably this is a big call. I would say around 90% of people these days are not producing enough hydrochloric acid in their stomach. It can be inhibited by stress, eating too much processed carbs, nutrient deficiencies, allergies or food sensitivities, or excess alcohol consumption. So very low stomach acid is called hypochlorhydria, and can lead to lots of different health problems. So without adequate HCl, the body can't properly defend against pathogenic microorganisms. So this is the foods that can't get broken down. So that's actually what causes acid reflux. I'm going to show you a little test to do in a second to test your acid levels, and it's very easy. You can do it. You can do it from home. So as we mentioned, back to the bag, if we don't, if food stays in the stomach, it ferments, it putrefies, rancidifies, and this can cause a host of symptoms and health problems. Let me just check your questions. Yeah, so Ben says chew 30 times. Oh, great. Ben, if you actually do that, that's fantastic. So I hear that the golden number is between 26 and 30 for each mouthful, which is great if you can do it, because it's very difficult sometimes. But I think if you have food that really needs breaking down somehow, then give it a good chew. So digestive enzymes mostly produced in the pancreas, the stomach, and the small intestines. But as we mentioned earlier, even your salivary glands produce digestive enzymes. So as soon as, back to the chewing, those enzymes are right from that chewing and breaking food molecules down. So you've probably seen, if any of you are taking enzymes, you've probably seen there's 3 different categories here. So amylase, which breaks down starches and carbohydrates into sugars. Protease, which breaks down proteins into amino acids. And lipase, which breaks down lipids, so fats and oils. interglycerol and fatty acids. All done yet? So let's have a look. Has anyone ever done the baking soda test? Let me know. It's very easy. You need to do it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach before eating or drinking. So mix a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda in around 4 ounces of cold water. Then drink this solution and then set a timer. Just set your timer to see how long it is before it takes you to burp. Basically, if you've not burped within 3 minutes, stop, because it shows that your stomach acid is really low. So what's happening is, so the baking soda, which is sodium bicarbonate, mixes, it should be exploding with the hydrochloric acid in the gut. It's a chemical reaction which should cause the burp. So if you get burps pretty soon, then you know you've got that hydrochloric acid in the gut. But once you've gone over even 2 minutes, it's indicating that the levels are very low, and that it may be a good idea to start substituting with that. So yeah, basically, so the question is, the baking soda test safe for young children to try? Yeah, there's nothing in there that is going to cause them an issue. The baking soda is very safe. You're just using a little bit to see. I mean, you might, as I said, sometimes we are giving just pure HCl. Just the other thing I say about that is sometimes if I know that somebody's stomach acid is very, very low, you can also do a test with the HCl. So taken before you eat, you take enough tablets until you feel a warm sensation in the gut, and then you know you've got enough stomach acid. Now, for some people, they can go up to like 8 tablets first of all, but as you start to replace that, you know that you're breaking down the food. So does it have to be cold water that it's mixed in? Room temperature would be absolutely fine. It doesn't need to be cold. I wouldn't mix it with warm water, actually, because I think you kind of do want that explosion in the gut. So it's a very simple little test, but it will kind of, from the science lab, it will show you that gut explosion, and it will let you know if you are low. So with the enzymes, let me just have a look here. So down in the Balanced Living shop, Premier Research Labs do a HCl, so that's a hydrochloric acid only. So let me say, for people that have low stomach acid, and if they are on medication, I don't tend to go straight in with the HCl. I would like to fix up the gut health a bit first before kind of going in with that. Remember, again, if you are trialing the HCl, do a trial of taking, maybe 4 tablets, get that warm feeling in the gut, and you've got enough to break down your foods. You know what? Some people don't have any HCl left by the time they're, even in their sort of 40s or 50s. It can be very, very low. So substituting is great there. So the digestase would be more of a kind of amylase, protease, lipase type enzymes. And again, if you're trying to break down, the fats, the carbohydrates, that kind of thing, that can really work. And then if you are, anyone that has trouble breaking down dairy, let's say, and protein, the Premier D test is quite good. And again, the enhancement enzymes, I think they also contain the bromelain. There's a real kind of mixture here of what to take. And failing that, if you feel like, right, I'm not ready to take enzymes just yet, try the apple cider vinegar 20 minutes before each meal. A couple of spoonfuls. If you can't take it neat, do put it into a little bit of water. And you'll also, Swedish bitters, they've been around for years and years and years. They're in a little bottle. Again, in Europe, they're very much known for having these bitters before a meal because it produces the right enzymes for digestion. So yeah, Val, so can we take apple cider vinegar even with acidic gut? Yeah, so apple cider vinegar, it's really interesting. If you ever read like the most common one, Paul Bragg, his book, he basically touts apple cider vinegar as the elixir of life because it has so many different uses. So even though we think it's vinegary and that it will cause a problem, it's actually a neutralizer. So the answer to that is yes. And Ben, yes, enzymes are the spark of life because, you know, back to the analogy, if we cannot break the food down properly, you know, we're not going to be able to digest properly. The other thing there is, have you ever eaten, you know, you think, well, I'm really healthy, I've got this nice raw salad, and you eat it, and then you get a few digestive problems, and then you feel quite hungry afterwards. Again, it shows your body may not be breaking down that food, and you may just want to go on to kind of some vegetables that you steam, just break down some of the you know, some of the cell walls within the vegetables and just make it easier for you to digest for a bit. That's all on our enzymes. If you've got any questions there, do let me know. So here, you know, gut microbiome, some of the things that have an effect on it, environmental factors, any drugs, diet. I read a really interesting article this morning on the baby's gut microbiome, and they're doing a lot more studies on that and how this really is feeding through from the mother. And so, you know, babies will often have problems from birth and they can't work out why. You know, basically everything we do will have an effect on this, but what we want to do is just to try and support the gut. And it's quite obvious over the years we're going to get wear and tear, we're going to get issues with the gut. So it's kind of about protecting and preventing. Some of the kind of you know, more off the wall facts, it's quite interesting to see that, you know, if you live close to green spaces, this increases your microbial diversity. Who would have thought? I guess if we do think about it as the rainforest, you know, we're 99% rainforest, 1% DNA, you know, then possibly being in those green spaces really does benefit it, you know. And so also your microbiome created during your first 7 years of life. So whatever we're feeding our children or what we were being fed obviously often sets us up, you know, for that. And I think we all know by now that antibiotics are like a bit of a war zone for the microbiome, and it can take anywhere from 6 months to a year to support the gut after antibiotics. However, you know, they are also lifesavers sometimes. So if you need to take them, you know, if it's for something really important, because they do also save our lives. So, so it's interesting with the gut microbiome because, you know, at one time our digestive system was considered just to be really simple, just one long tube going down, like food to be through, absorbed, and then excreted. So it's only like, you know, in sort of recent years that that it's now, you know, really kind of recognized, and you know, the microorganisms living in your intestines. Yeah, and as we mentioned earlier, it's sort of around 500 different species. So the first phase is that we break down the food. But then we're having a look. So let me just take you back to gut dysbiosis. You've got the plastic bag, you've got the food that's festering and attracting all sorts of nasty things into the gut. And then the balance, so we want an 80-20 balance, the balance starts to tip over. You know, we need some, you know, the good bacteria. We need it about 80-20 basically. So in clinic, how we would go in and treat this is like a weed seed feed. You're weeding out that bad bacteria. You're getting rid of any parasites. You're starting to clear out the plastic bag. So that's the first thing that you would do. Secondly, you'd want to go back in with the beneficial bugs. So here comes our probiotics, and we'll have a look at those in a second. So you want to seed in. You want to get that balance, get that rainforest growing nicely and healthily. And then you want to feed and support the gut. So we want to support the gut mucosa and bring down any inflammation there, and really start to feed the gut, bring in your prebiotics, your ferments, all those lovely foods that we talked about earlier. So if you think about it a bit like a garden, it starts to make sense. So just to go into and tell you some of the good antimicrobials that we use for dysbiosis in the gut. What I would say is a lot of these do sit within our practitioner range, only that these are very strong herbs and they're very powerful. And you need to make sure that you're using them in the right way. But there's a really good selection of herbal antimicrobials. Let me know if you've taken any, what kind of effects you had from them, but very strong black walnut, bacteria, golden seal. I tell you, golden seal, if you've ever had that, you definitely know it, but it's an amazing antiviral herb as well. Bright yellow in colour and a beautiful herb. Then the berberis, the barberry, artemisia, they all make up this group of antimicrobials, which are great for the gut and also for other viruses and microbial infections in the body. There is the one I found in Balanced Living. They've got that really nice range of health for superfoods, and there's one called Scram in there, and that actually has a really nice balance of the black walnut, the cloves, and the milk thistle, which is nice as a bit of liver support as well. Gut powders, what you're looking for is a really nice blend of L-glutamine, pectin, 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐭, aloe. You really want to heal this mucosa, the gut mucosa, especially if there is leaky gut present. You've got oregano, so we bring in the oreganos with the fungal type infections, the garlic, the oregano, again has been having amazing antiviral activities. There's been some trials against COVID as well. And then there's herbs, there's a mixture of herbs. Mountain Meadow, they've got some blends for yeast, so candida infections. The garlic is also great for that. So there's a few of your products in the store. So I've taken 𝐵𝐼𝐶, which has a blend of antimicrobials and was the most effective for me from all the different types. So 𝐵𝐼𝐶 is a great product. It's a tiny bottle, isn't it, Porno? As you see, when you buy it, you think, how can that possibly be getting rid of all of this gut bacteria? But it's a drop dose herb. It also helps deal with biofilm in the gut. I think, Porno, you can probably vouch for this. I can really taste the golden seal in 𝐵𝐼𝐶, and I feel like that's having a really good effect against the antimicrobials. You can kind of feel the herbs working their magic there. So 𝐵𝐼𝐶 is actually it's attached to the practitioner range, but you can buy in the store. All right, so any more questions about antimicrobials, just pop them on the chat line. If not, we'll move on and have a look at the role of probiotics. So probiotics, it is actually means the meaning for life. You know, there's been so much around the different probiotics, you know, used for different digestive disorders, urinary tract, fungal, yeast, immune stuff. They're also, you know, at times really good for cleansing and detoxing. There's a great probiotic called Mutaflor, which is used for constipation. It was actually first came out in the First World War, and they noticed that the soldiers that were fed Mutaflor weren't getting the dysentery that the soldiers that hadn't had it. So they started to target various strains of probiotics, and Mutaflor actually is just an E. coli strain, but good E. coli. Let me just check if you're going to. So, Christine, is it correct that if you lose your natural probiotics, you will always need to substitute, and that the substitutes only last a few weeks? So, I think, you know, when you do your stool testing, it will often show what you're low in, the certain ones. And do you know what, for a lot of people I see they're low in, you know, very common lactobacillus, you know, bifido, like those kind of ones like are often good. I mean, what I think the role of probiotics is now is that it used to be to hit the body with, you know, 5 billion CFUs, and that was going to do it. But actually, it's a lot more targeted. It's got to be a carefully chosen product to support what is going on with you. One that we use a lot with dysbiosis and candida and parasites. First of all, I normally always go in with an SB, and then kind of swap that probiotics. If you are building up the diversity of your microbiome, you should then be able to protect it. It shouldn't just disappear again, like as soon as you stop taking it. You know, like we don't want to take stuff all of the time. I think it does us good to have a break. So think of probiotics these days as very much targeted therapy to what is individually going on with you. And of course, you know, great for allergy protection, great Rhamnus is great for skin support. I mean, as a good all-rounder though, the Microbiome 18 is actually quite a nice product. You'll see also they don't always need to be kept in the fridge these days. The technology is there for shelf-stable probiotics as well. You know, so if you're looking to sort of enhance your immunity, improve gut function, production of bowel, all of these things, it's very, very beneficial. And so whilst we're on the subject of probiotics, let's just talk about prebiotics. So, you know, we talked about weeding the garden and bringing out the bad bacteria. Prebiotics are like seeding the garden. So they act as a food source for probiotics. And they also assist in the repair of the gut wall. So if you are dealing with leaky gut, you know, as I said, maybe don't bring them in first of all, but once you start to get a bit of this repair going, definitely then bring in your prebiotics. Like you can tell if you've ever had a kombucha and you feel bloated afterwards, you know that bacterial levels are out of place. So, you know, so I think the prebiotics has also become as important as the probiotics, you know, and especially if it's a long-standing condition. There's also different strains that can survive, you know, down into the lower intestine, that not kind of going, you know. Quite a nice little one if you're wanting to kind of just support the whole family is the 𝐾𝐢𝐞𝐫 one that's in clinic, and it's a powder. It's multi-strain, it's suitable for the whole family. You can either have it neat or mix it in water, but it's really low inflammatory, you know, it's dairy-free, there's no kind of mixes in there. So the 𝐾𝐢𝐞𝐫 have produced quite a nice little range of powders and tonics. They've got a great tonic you can add to your water, and it just really keeps that microbiome supported during the day. If you've got any questions on that, just let me know. Let's have a look at constipation. Again, this is a huge problem that people come into clinic. If you are suffering from any thyroid conditions, adrenal, gut conditions, IBS, constipation can very much be a big issue here. So of course, you know, the first one, stay hydrated. Of course, like we know that sometimes it's difficult. You know, it definitely can be difficult, but try to get your good quality filtered water into your diet every day. It's one of the best things we can do for our health. You know, targeted probiotics are great. We need our fibre. We talked about that. That comes in many different ways of food. So healthfuls are that the superfood. They have a formula. Like I'm not a big fan of laxatives, or even some of the cascara, which is a really kind of violent herb. It's too violent on the gut, you know, to use stuff like that in the bowels. You know, and also you don't want to kind of get used to any of that. It's much better to look at what you can do to get the bowels. You know, we definitely need lots of water, as we said earlier, to draw into the intestines to get that motion. Incidentally, I mean, once a day is good, once a day or more. You know, the definition, if you're not going every day, I think everybody should go every day. You know, I think medical definition says, oh, you know, if you go 3 times a week, it's fine. I don't think it's fine. I think there's something wrong there. So magnesium, there's various magnesiums, from magnesium sulfate, which will really clear you out, to obviously we normally give 𝐼𝐸𝐴 because it doesn't irritate the stomach. So depending on what you're wanting to use it for. You've got your vitamin C. You can, basically your body will take what it needs. When you've had enough, it will loosen the bowels. So if you want to up your vitamin C in the day, you'll see when you've had enough. You know, there's things like coconut oil, psyllium husks, slippery elm. They all kind of help bulk out the stool as well, and pass through without taking the nutrients. And sometimes, you know, if you are a little bit stuck there, you know, castor oil, a couple of spoonfuls of castor oil in warm water can definitely help move that through. So it's kind of, you know, constipation should never be looked at as a one thing of something being wrong. It's a much bigger picture as to what's going on here. So let me know if you have any questions around the constipation. So I wanted to tell you about, so September, we're going to run, hang on, let me just check your questions first here. So Val question is frequent eating really recommended for weak guts? Look, I think again, it is an individual thing, but you know, obviously if your blood sugars are imbalanced, if you're not breaking down food properly, then eating, you know, smaller meals frequently can help with that digestion. Again, you know, taking this whilst improving gut function. Yeah, so we're going to run. So this month, apparently, so it's Wellness Month. August is Wellness Month. And so we decided to really concentrate on the gut. Part 1 being today, part 2 being next week. And in September, we're going to run a 30-day gut makeover. Now, if you're like me, I feel like I let a few things go in circuit breaker. I was trying to be good, but there were things that snuck into my diet, a little bit more of everything than usual. So we wanted to give everyone time to start, out and about again. But a lot of people have asked us, could we look at doing one of these programs again, just to get our bodies and our gut and maybe our weight a little bit under control. So we're running a gut makeover program, 30 days, 1st to 30th of September. No need to come into the clinic, and I think that's the beauty of it. We'll have, so you'll get your total plan with all the recipes, lifestyle tips. There'll be a couple of products included to heal the gut. We're going to do it as a community, so there'll be weekly Zoom sessions where we'll all check in, and obviously you'll be giving information every week as to how to deal with what's going on. So I do this twice a year, and I started doing it in Australia, first of all, just amongst my friends. And each year, it just grew and grew and grew. So the first week, I admit, is a little bit tough. Second week is quite emotional, but during that second week, you really start to feel good, and you see the benefits of this. And by the end, you feel fantastic. And let me tell you, if you can do that maybe once or twice a year for your body, it's just, giving the gut support and a rest from the things. And you do it with other people, so it makes it so much easier. So I know the clinic are sending out something on that. So if you feel like you want to join me, please join me, because I'm going to be doing it. So I really want other people to be doing it with me, because it is so much easier. So Ben, yes, we do need to spring clean for our gut. It's really, really important, and honestly, it just, for our energy and everything else, it just makes us feel so much better. Don't forget we may add some coffee enemas, if you know about that. We may add that to it, but it does need a bit of instruction. But you'll get everything that you need. So yeah, have a look at joining me there. And then just takeaways from the clinic. We do still offer the 15-minute free consult. So if you want to have a chat about anything, or anything you're taking, or if you feel like you want to do a test, or if you want to come into the clinic, you're not sure it's right for you, do pop an email to clinic@𝐏𝐵alancedLivingAsia, and we can book you in for a 15-minute free consult. So the clinic's running as normal now, both in clinic and virtual clinic. So appointments, clinic app, and then the Living Cafe. So great choice if you want to pop out and have lunch, or just about doing breakfast, but eating clean foods. And we're going to come up with an option on the gut makeover that you can order some of your food from the Living Cafe, just to make it as easy as possible. But believe me, it is very easy. All right, so let me know if you've got any questions. That always trust your gut. It knows what your head hasn't figured out yet. And I think it's really important to trust your gut feelings and to look at what's going on in there for your overall health. And do join me next week for this. So you can see this goes on too long, so I couldn't possibly do it all together. So we will be looking at leaky gut. We will be looking at the immune system and we'll be looking at the gut-brain connection, as well as how your poop should look, you know, all more things gut, around the gut. So yeah, pop your questions on if you've got any. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining again this morning. If there's anything that you feel hasn't been covered, or if there's something you want to know before we go, just let me know now while we're on. Thanks, Pona. Thanks for joining in, and thanks for your input with your questions and products and stuff. Always great to have you. Please join us next week. Which would be great. Yeah, just pop it on now. Thank you, Ken. Thanks for joining. See you in part 2, and take care, everyone.